Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Mr. Secretary. Can you describe to me what your and what the administration's definition of is a win in Ukraine?
Senator, on the terms that President Putin himself set, Ukraine has already succeeded and Russia has failed. The terms that Putin set was to eliminate the sovereignty and independence of Ukraine and to subsume it back into Russia. I can state with confidence that that has failed and that will fail. I do not see a scenario by which that happens. And as we're speaking, the Ukrainians are doing an extraordinary job, thanks to their courage, but also because of the support that we've led in providing in pushing back the Russians. They've done that from Kyiv and western Ukraine and northern Ukraine. They're now engaged, as you know, in a ferocious battle in the east and south. We are doing everything we can to make sure that they have the means to continue to do that. And ultimately, it will be up to them, the Ukrainians, as a sovereign, independent country, how they want to resolve this. And we'll see if President Putin ever gets to the point of being willing to engage in any meaningful negotiation about that. But that will be up to the Ukrainians. They'll have our full support, as they do now.
So you're not really willing to lay out what the administration's view of what the end state ought to be to consider it a win?
The end state should be determined by the Ukrainians as a sovereign, independent country. We'll back that. We'll continue to back that, however they choose to do it.
When you were with President Zelensky, did he talk to you about what he considered his objectives are? And I would say his objectives would be probably the definition of what he would consider a win.
Senator, I don't want to put words in his mouth. I think what it would be fair and safe to say is that his objective would be to push the Russians out of the territory that they're trying to occupy in eastern Ukraine. And also, let me add to this, because I think it's important, to try to make sure that when that is accomplished, Russia is not in a position to repeat this exercise next month, next year, or in 5 years. And that goes to making sure that Ukraine has the effective capacity to deter and defend itself. And it also goes to something that Secretary Austin said yesterday, was also making sure in various ways that Russia does not have the effective means to do this again.
So putting your two answers together, President Zelensky would view his objective is to push Russia out, certainly out of eastern Ukraine. And you said the administration will support President Zelensky in his objectives. Are you willing to state that that is the U.S. objective as well? If that aligns with President Zelensky, that we will provide the support, our goal is for them to win, according to the definition of the Ukrainians and President Zelensky. We will support them in their efforts to win in Ukraine, which means pushing Russia out of at least eastern Ukraine.
If that is how the Ukrainians continue, let me just say again, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but if that is how they define their objectives as a sovereign, a democratic, independent country, that's what we'll support. I come back to my initial proposition, which was that on Putin's own terms, which was trying to subjugate Ukraine fully to Russia and eliminate its sovereignty and independence, that's already failed.
I understand. So now it appears that Putin's goal is establishing the land bridge, at least between eastern Ukraine to Crimea. Is that are you willing to state that is definitely the U.S. objective, our NATO partners' objective, to deny him that land bridge?
Our objective is to make sure that the Ukrainians have the means to repel and deal with this Russian aggression wherever it is taking place in Ukraine, including in southern Ukraine, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Again, I was at a permanent subcommittee investigation hearing on the way we still have not addressed military housing. So I missed some of the testimony, so maybe you already covered this, but are we going to provide them the types of weaponry they need, recognizing that what worked when Kyiv was surrounded and now it's flatter terrain, in some cases almost trench warfare? Are we committed to providing the type of weaponry that President Zelensky was asking for?
In short, yes, and the point you make is an important one. The nature of the battle has changed from what was necessary for Western Ukraine and Kyiv to where things are now. We spent 3 hours with President Zelensky, with the Secretary of Defense. A big focus of that conversation was what it is that Ukraine needs to deal with the current state of the Russian aggression. The Secretary of Defense, as we speak, is actually in Germany with the ministers of defense from about 40 countries, focused on making sure that we are all providing to Ukraine what it needs to deal with this aggression.
To what extent are we aware that China is helping Russia in their aggression against Ukraine? Do we know they're using Chinese drones?
We're very focused on this in a number of ways. President Biden made directly clear to President Xi Jinping that it would not be in China's interest to materially support Russia in this aggression, or for that matter, to undermine sanctions. This is something we're looking at very, very carefully. I think you're seeing that China is having to deal with the significant reputational risk that it's already incurring by being seen as, in the most charitable interpretation, on the fence and more practically supportive of Russia. We can, in a different session, get into more detail, but for now, we're not seeing significant support by China for Russia's military actions.
So finally, in the remaining seconds I have, I've been attempting to get from the State Department a report that the State Department conducted on an inspection from the Wuhan Lab. I think we understand that the overall thrust of that report is it was not a lab that had the type of safety standards that we would have expected. I'm somewhat baffled that that's a report that I'm simply not able to get my hands on. This report came from, it's April 19th, 2018. The cable describing it was January 19th of 2018. So is that something you'll commit to me today to turn over to my committee?
Senator, I'll look back into that. My recollection is this. There was a program that ended in 2019. There was no funding of that program since. And I think there was a report that may have been done by an outside contractor that I think was seen as problematic in its methodology. And in any event, I will follow up. I don't know the status of that, but we'll come back to you with it.
Okay, I'd appreciate that, and I'll expect that response. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Shaheen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for your testimony this morning and for your trip to Ukraine. I think it was something that the entire world watched with great appreciation. I really want to start this afternoon with the Western Balkans, because